crisis mode, that you felt like you were fighting for your life, whether it was in an outdoor setting and you were really, truly fighting for your life, or maybe it was more of an emotional setting where you were really in crisis mode and wondering what was going to happen next. Well, we're Brian and Maryann with Adventurous Life, coaching your journey from doubt to courage, obligation to motivation, and from the mundane to adventure.
So psychologist John Leach, he talks about a 10-80-10 rule. And he says that in crisis situations, in dangerous, and he's talking about usually outdoor or emergency situations, people usually fall into one of those categories, the 10%, the 80%, or the 10%. The first 10%, they are able to control their fears in a crisis situation. They're able to think and act rationally.
We need those people, definitely,
Yes.
to help people get out of those situations, for sure.
That's the person I want to show up when I'm in a crisis situation,
right,
is
yeah.
someone who's in that 10%. Then he says that 80% of people, so the large majority of people, they become stunned. And they're unprepared to respond or react. They don't know exactly what to do, and they're kind of in that deer in the headlights look.
Kind of a shock, yeah.
What do we do?
What do I do?
Then there's the other 10% of people who pretty much become hysterical. They are unable to cope in the situation, and they kind of lose it. Now, this is in emergency situations, outdoors. So the vast majority of people really do get stunned, and what do we do? Now, this applies not only to crisis situations and emergency situations, but I think it really applies to this topic of the thinking brain versus the survival brain. And how do we in life, we have these little moments come up. Sometimes we have bigger stressors come up, like I know this past year has been for a lot of people. And we want, and as coaches, we help our clients and for ourselves to work out of our thinking brain, not out of our survival brain.
Yeah, we make a lot better decisions when we're in that thinking brain versus the emotional, controlled by whatever circumstances are out there.
Yeah, well, and if you think of if you do happen to fall in that bottom 10%, the hysterical, unable to cope, yeah, you're not making good decisions there. But even when you're making decisions out of kind of just a stunned, I'm not sure what to do situation here, if you happen to be one of those lucky 10% who in a crisis moment can say, okay, here we go, I know exactly what to do, I can stay calm. So we want to actually give you 3 tips that will help you as you're going through those moments in life, whether it's a longer stressor, and these can be used in a longer time frame, or whether it's in that moment of stress or crisis that comes up in your life.
Yeah, the first one is having flexible expectations. In our book, we talk about being prepared for the unexpected. And in order to be prepared for the unexpected, you have to have flexible expectations. And this can apply to good circumstances and bad circumstances as well. I know for us as parents, we have expectations for our kids, but oftentimes our kids don't do exactly what we want them to.
What? We're sure yours do.
Yeah, I'm sure
Good job.
Yours probably do. And what we've learned as parents is, when we have an expectation, when we talk to them about something, we have to have flexible expectations. If we just say it has to be this way or they're in trouble, or I'm going to be angry, whatever, then we're going to spend a lot of time just controlled by those disappointments, those failed expectations, our anger, and not really have those failed or have met those expectations that we have for them. So having flexible expectations, saying, yeah, this is what I expect them to do and I hope that they do, but I'm also prepared mentally in my thinking brain to respond to this situation.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So are you saying our kids don't have to keep expectations? Is that what you're telling them?
Not at all. No, not at all. Just it helps.
So what do you mean by flexible expectations in that case?
Basically, if I'm just fixated on the one result that I'm expecting to happen. So I ask my kid to go unload the dishwasher, feed the dogs, and do their laundry, and they do 2 out of the 3, and I'm irate, and I expected them to do all 3 because I told them to do all 3.
You don't actually get irate.
No, not usually. But knowing that, okay, they're a kid, they need reminders, and having those expectations of, okay, this is what I expect them to do, and if they do it, hey, great, that's great. But if not, then I'm going to be all irate and upset. So another one is influence, and in the work that we do, we really seek to have a lot of influence. In my life as a past educator, that's really one thing that I seek to have is influence, a positive influence on others. And sometimes I've created this vision of how I think it's going to happen. And here's my vision, and I just start piecing it all together and kind of almost controlling the next steps, whether it's a month out or 3 months out or a year out. And I kind of sometimes create this image in my mind, and guess what? It often does not turn out how I imagine. And what I've found is I've gotten not depressed, but like on the verge of being depressed just because it was like a failed expectation. Well, this is what I pictured in my mind, and I was really disappointed because it didn't work out how I thought it was going to work out. And I've had to learn over the years to say, okay, here's a vision, here's what I'm shooting for, but really all I can do is take the next step, and then I can take the next step. And you know what? So many times, especially now in our business that we're doing and working with people, I could not have imagined some of the wonderful things that have happened. And so sometimes it's the negative thing that comes at us, but then sometimes just being open to say, wow, this is wonderful. I didn't imagine this, but I'm going to take this opportunity because it's now here in front of me. And so just having those flexible expectations and saying, it doesn't have to be like this, how I imagined it would be. It could be better, or it may not go, and I learn from it and I move forward.
So we actually did a podcast with survivalist Aaron Brenneman, which we'd love for you to go check out on our website, adventurouslife.net. And right in the top right-hand corner, there's a podcast icon you can click on and find Aaron. But he talks about this, about the idea that those who survive are able to have flexible expectations. They're able to say, okay, what do I need to do in this situation, and respond instead of saying, well, I think I know what to do, and that's what I'm going to do no matter what, or that worked before. And that's true in life, being able, as Brian's saying, to see possibilities, whether it's in a situation that didn't go as you wanted, or maybe it's even going better than you had anticipated, being open to that. So that was all just our first tip. That was a long first tip, was have flexible expectations. Our second tip is to be able to slow down. So when you're in a crisis moment, a lot of people in outdoor crisis moments, they react too quickly, and they actually get themselves in really dangerous or fatal situations because they just respond without thinking. Remember, we're talking about getting into your thinking brain instead of your survival brain. So slow down. When you're in a stressful situation at home, at work, with everything that's going on around you, slow down.
You know, it's amazing just watching you slow down.
I was slowing down.
It just brings down the stress. Like just watching you do it, go.
I know.
And taking that deep breath.
Yeah, I was going to say
actually
breathing.
just removes a little bit of stress. It's just like your shoulders sometimes get tense, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
It just does bring
I've
it down.
been loving doing deep breathing lately, even in the middle of work, in the mornings, while I'm praying. I just take big deep breaths, and it doesn't feel so good. So slow down when you're in stressful situations. And then with that, prioritize steps. And then just focus on one step at a time. Sometimes that's all we can do, right? We're like overwhelmed, feeling stressed, slow down for a second, prioritize what needs to be done, and just start one step at a time. So that's our second tip for you. And our third tip is a quick one, but know the tools and resources you have. They say with people who are in outdoor crisis situations, let's say you're stuck out in the woods and you realize you're stuck out in a storm. Being confident in what you have. Okay, I have a tent, I have the ability to eat, I have, a sleeping bag that can go down to this. That gives you confidence, knowing the tools and resources you have. So think about that. If in your stress, in your crisis situations, when you're in that survival brain, how am I going to make this work? What am I going to do? First, flexible expectations. Second, slow down, prioritize, and one step at a time. And then third, know the resources you have. Where can you get help? Where can you get support? Who can you talk to? So those are our help for you, for ourselves, as we, in life, it can feel like a crisis situation sometimes. To be able to help you get through, if you're in that 80% to move forward, if you're in that 10%, you're feeling hysterical, to hopefully move you into a calmer state. And if you're just in that top 10% already, always super calm, I hope you're there when I need you.
And I would encourage you, as our action step, is not wait until you're in that crisis mode to start practicing these 3 things. Is this week, when you're going into the next situation that you're going into, start practicing awareness. As we were going through these 3 steps, I just couldn't help but think of awareness and being more aware of what are your expectations as you're heading into a meeting with somebody, as you're heading into a meal with family members, you're invited somebody over to the house. What are your expectations as you're going into those different situations? And just be aware of them, and maybe take some time to slow down, as Maryann said, and really think. Take some time to process and think, are there some other expectations that I could have? Could I be a little more flexible in what I'm expecting is going to happen? And so that's my action step for you this week. Be aware in each situation. Don't wait for the crisis mode, so that you can be more prepared when those crises come, that you've practiced this, that you've practiced being flexible, that you've practiced being taking time to slow down and respond to these. So,
and knowing the resources you have. That's
right.
great. That might be your action step too. Who can I go to when I'm in a stressful situation?
So thanks so much for joining us, being a part of Adventurous Life Community, where we challenge people to move away from just what's comfortable, move into that challenge zone so that you can learn and grow and make the contribution that you want to.